Okay, we're going to be taking a look at Caesar and Gallia, which was the third title in Joe Miranda's Ancient War series. And for those of you who saw my video on Roman Civil War, you'll remember that I mentioned that the order of the series was actually Trajan was first, Roman Civil War was second, Caesar and Gaul the third one, which we'll be looking at, and then Germania. And I have to say a few negative things in this video that I didn't know at the time when I reviewed Roman Civil War. Roman Civil War is my favorite one, and I plunged right into the advanced game with that because to really properly simulate the Roman Civil War, you have to use all of the advanced rules, especially with the civis units, the res publica, and you have to get the political aspects in for Roman Civil War. It's the only way that scenario works. So when I took on Caesar and Gallia, I expected a much simpler game, which is what I got. In the Caesar and Gaul map, you're using only a small section of the map. But I had difficulties with this third title, and I'll explain why. Okay, in the original title, Volume 1, Trajan, which I have not looked at yet, but because of what happened while I was playing Caesar and Gaul, I had to go back to Trajan, and then I began to see some of the problems. Now, Trajan, when they wrote it, first title, you had your basic game, and in, like most other war games, you read the basic game, and if you want a little more, you can go to these advanced rules. All fine and good, and Trajan seems to work just fine. But by the time they got to the third title, or this is the third one, Civil War had preceded it, Caesar and Gaul, they went with a basic game, and then they went with this advanced game. And the problem with the rules here are not the rules themselves. The rules are fairly clear. No problem at all. It's not that complex a game. The trouble is the format of the rules, I think. So what happens is you read the basic game, and if this is your first title, you'll kind of get into trouble. It's because they wanted to homogenize all four rules books, and in doing so, I think they kind of messed it up. Because you're reading certain sections, and then it'll kind of say, well, this section only applies to Trajan, or this section only applies to Roman Civil War. And, oh, you're reading something, and, oh, that doesn't apply here, that's only for Trajan, that's only for Civil War, that's only for Germania. And you get this kind of homogenized, messy rule book. I just find it a mess. At first I was going to reformat it, try to take the sections out that didn't apply, but that's almost impossible because certain rules are only one or two sentences within the thing. Maybe it's just me, but I found it a very intuitive way to learn the game system. So if you can get by that, I guess you're okay. Now the problem with this game was I was playing a solitaire game of it, and about 40-45 minutes into it, I couldn't find a certain rule and chart, and because I was playing with the advanced rules. And I looked and looked and looked and couldn't find it anywhere. Well, lo and behold, the chart was missing, and that was the chart for checking the discipline class of the troops when you're in advanced combat. It was not in Caesar and Gallia, and this is kind of an unforgivable sin to me. It wasn't even in the errata. So I wasted a good, 30-40 minutes looking for this chart, couldn't find it. Went back to Trajan and some of the earlier titles like Roman Civil War. Sure enough, the chart was there. So learning Caesar and Gallia left a very bad taste in my mouth. So what I'm going to do with this video is probably play a few turns using the basic game. I had never really explored the basic game too much, so that's what we're going to do in the video. And with further ado, let's start that. Okay, to set up the parameters to the scenario, this is the situation. This is Gaul here, and you can see the tribal units. These civis units are each of the tribal centers. Also, we've got Britannia. We've got the Helvetii here, and you've got the Agii, which is a client kingdom of Rome. They're on Rome's side. Caesar himself with Labienus is here in northern Italy. So that's the general setup. The units are not allowed to go into Spain. You can't cross the Pyrenees. So for all intents and purposes, we're playing just in Gaul and Great Britain. The scenario victory conditions are fairly basic. To win, Caesar's got to control 9 tribal centers when the game ends. So that's generally the campaign. Now the game begins in the second winter turn of 49 BC. Each one of these notches here represents 1 year, 1 campaigning year. And winter movement being the way it is, I don't recommend much movement in winter. It's very severe. Armies tended to be rather immobile in the wintertime. So we'll start the game, go through a few turns, and see how it goes. We won't be filming the whole game, because I think that will take several hours. But by playing a few turns, give you an idea what this game is all about. Okay, I can see some anomalies in the rules already, which is no surprise. The Roman goes first in the basic game, and it says specifically in the basic game that the Roman player rolls on the SPQR table. Notice in brackets it says advanced game. That in itself is rather curious. Anyway, we'll roll the dice and see what we get. We get a 6. That says new recruits receive 1 R-class legion in the Italia off-map region. So what we're going to do is add an R-class legion to the Italian box. Now there's your basic game player turn. And as I mentioned, see the Romans do go first, and it does say recruiting segment. Roll on the SPQR table. So I don't know why that anomaly is there. Anyway, the next segment is the movement segment. And from experience, you don't want to really move in wintertime. So I'm not going to move the Romans this turn. I'll just recruit. Then you've got your battle segment. Of course, there's no battle. Nobody's on the board, really. So let's go to the Gallic turn. Okay, in a similar manner, it says in the basic game that the the barbarians roll on the tribal council table. Interesting again, it says advanced game. I wonder if I'm missing something. Looking on the table, no, I don't see anything. Anyway, okay, so the barbarians are going to roll on the tribal council table. And they get a 3, which is Major Chief. Pick at random 1 Major Chief from among all those currently available in the barbarian recruits box. Place him on any friendly unit of the same color. Alright, so the barbarians get a leader. Let's select a leader and put them on the board. Well, it says you get to pick one, so we might as well take the best one, which seems to be Vercingetorix. And where should we put him? Not sure, because there's no real barbarian units on the board yet. But, I'll put him in a central location, maybe here at Bibracte, and wait till some troops come on. Okay, like the Romans, it just isn't very advantageous to march in wintertime, so I'll forego the barbarian move. Don't know if that's a mistake or not, but I don't think so. And we'll just end the turn. So we're out of the winter turn now of 58 BC, so we're into the April turn of 57 BC. And let's go from there. Okay, so the April turn of the new year would begin with the Romans once again rolling on the SPQR table. And they get a 9, and that says auxiliaries. Choose 1 unit from the following list and place it in the Italia off-map region. So we can have a choice of, must be available. I'll probably take another veteran legion and place them with Caesar. Okay, now we're in the Roman movement phase, and the rules for moving from off-board boxes are that Caesar can enter between 4222 and 4225. I'm going to choose to enter Caesar's units here at 4225. Now, we will be marching, and you have to roll on this march table, and we're going to be on a road, so we have to roll on this march table to see what happens when Caesar's forces enter from this space. Let's take a look at the march table. Okay, there's the march table, and we'll be rolling on column 1 because it says road or trade route, which we will be moving on. So we roll 1 die, and we get a 1. That just says N, which I believe is no effect. We'll check that out. Nope, it's actually worse than that. It says no march. Force does not move at all. So I've got to find out whether they start on the board or are they still off board. I'll look that up in the rules. The rule seems a little vague. It doesn't actually say you put the men on the board. It just says that after you're on the board, you have to expend half your movement points. So I don't think it's a big deal. So I'm going to put all of Caesar's forces here at 42-25, but he will not move from that position. Okay, I see I made a mistake in the recruiting. When I recruited the Roman unit a while back, I arbitrarily selected a veteran unit. I'm not allowed to do that. I have to take a recruit unit. So I'll fix that up, and then the barbarians will roll on their table to see what they get this turn. Okay, the tribal council table. The barbarians roll a 9. That's tribal recruits. Receive new units for each friendly tribe. So this is going to be interesting. The rebellion is on. Okay, the recruiting limits are here on this Gallic table. So I'll start to put the new units on each tribal space according to how many they can have. It'll take a few minutes and we'll resume the video with the units on the board. Well, once again we have a bit of an anomaly because the basic game rules defy that table. Of course, you're not even supposed to be using that table at all according to the basic rules. But it says here in the basic game that you choose one of the following units, not a bunch of them, as according to the tribal mobilization table. So I don't know whether to just plug that in as an advanced game rule or just use the basic. But I guess I'll continue with the basic. So we'll recruit one of these units in each tribal space. Okay, well the barbarians chose a one unit for each tribe, and as we can see, boy, the rebellion is on. Caesar's going to have his work cut out for him. So I suspect this game is going to depend a lot on the movement and how successful each force is moving on that march table. So that's the recruitment phase for the barbarians. The barbarians will now move, and we'll try to get them in a clump, make some big armies, and see how Caesar can handle that. Okay, so this is what I've decided as a general strategy for the Gauls. They're anticipating that Caesar is probably going to move here to Massilia and move up. Oh, I think I'm missing a unit there. There should be a legion there. Yes, there's supposed to be a veteran legion in any one town in Gallia. I've chosen Massilia. So Caesar's probably going to move here down this track to Massilia, consolidate his position, then perhaps begin his campaign. So the Gauls are going to anticipate that. So the Helvetii will move westward along this track. Meanwhile, Vercingetorix up here will try to gather as many barbarian units as he can in this general vicinity to try and block Caesar. Let's see how that movement goes. We'll pick up the video after all the barbarians have moved. Well, I should show one typical barbarian move so you'll understand the movement system. We'll have this Chief 1 moving the Helvetii. They're going to move along this track totally, so they will roll on the road or trade route table, and let's see what they get. They roll a 1 also, which is no march at all, so the Helvetii have moved. They recommend in the game to turn the units upside down once they've moved or attempted to move, so you'll know who has moved. So we'll pick up the video after I've moved the other barbarians. Okay, well I didn't try to move every barbarian unit, and boy, I can see why. They got some really bad attrition results. Just whole units fell off the board. At least 3 were destroyed marching. So I decided to not march, wait till we see what Caesar does, and then maybe we can concentrate later on. I don't think it's a good idea trying to move everybody, and I see it's better to move in a stack because the attrition result says you move one single unit. So if one single unit tries to move and dies, that's it. Might be better to move a stack. But to get them in the stacks, that's going to be interesting to say the least. So that's the end of the barbarian movement. Not much has changed on the board there. Okay, we've advanced the turn record 1 notch, and we'll roll on the SPQR table. And it's a 3, which is troop withdrawal. Return 1 legion of a Roman's choice currently in play to the Roman recruits or promotions box. Oop, that's not good. So Caesar loses a legion. I'll put them in the recruits box. Okay, Caesar is at least on the board. He'll be moving totally on road. So he'll use the road column there. We'll roll the die and see what he gets. And he gets a 4, which is M2/F. M2 is an enhanced march, which means he can go 2 additional hexes. And the F result, force march, that's attrition, advanced game only. So we can ignore that. So he's going to get an enhanced march of 2 hexes if he wishes. So he'll probably stop here at Massilia. That's far enough. Now he can only move as fast as the slowest unit. He's got engineer units with him. 4, and I think he's got an Empeditus unit, which only moves 3. So technically he can move 1, 2, 3, and 2 more. 1, 2. So actually he'll fall short of Massilia. He'll be here on the coast. So I see now that the march table really is an important part of the game. Whether the units march full or half or attrition, marching is everything in this game. Now, the Agii are allies of Caesar, and I'm going to attempt to move them down to join Caesar. Whether that's a good move or not, I don't know, because the table is so severe. Now they will have to roll on the overland table because their entire move does not begin on road. So let's roll for the Agii. 1 die. They roll a 1, which I don't think is very good. Cross country, nope, no march at all. So that's the end of the Agii and the Roman move. And there's no combat. So we're over to the barbarian tribal phase again. Okay, the barbarians roll on the table, and they roll an 11, which is not good. Infighting. Change 1 friendly tribe from friendly to independent. Remove the marker indicating barbarian control from the tribe's display. Also remove from play a number of units equal to the tribe's mobilization value. Oh, this is not good at all. So I'll do that, and we'll see how that affects the barbarians. Okay, it's interesting that it says remove the marker that indicates tribal control from the tribal display. That's interesting because they don't provide you with any markers that do that. I guess you're expected to make your own. Another failing of the magazine games, I'm afraid. So I'll go get some blank markers and mark all the tribes. And you might as well choose a tribe that isn't very good or very far away and remove it. So I'll do that, and I'll get some markers for the tribal display. Well, in a reversal of what the rules are suggesting, it's a lot easier to mark the tribes that are not cooperating. So I've just marked the Aquitani, removed their units from the board, and that's the tribe that is affected by the infighting. Okay, we're back to the barbarian movement phase, and let's see if we can get some of these barbarians, I guess I should say Gauls, concentrated here, maybe in the vicinity of Bibracte, to eventually combat Caesar. So I'll do the movement of these, and we'll see what the net result was. Okay, that's the result after the barbarians have moved, or rather the Gauls, and a few more units were lost due to attrition. I'm finding this very bad. Those are the units, those 5 green units have been lost to just marching. I think it's a bit much. Maybe it could be just by bad die rolls, or I don't know how you get these guys concentrated, because that's the best way to march is concentration, but you've got to get concentrated, and that's taking a bit of a task. Anyway, the Helvetii did move, and they got a good march, and they were able to get on top of the Agii. So we're going to have our first battle here on the Agii tribe. And you're supposed to mark the space with a little battle marker, which we'll do here. And we'll do our first basic game combat and see what happens. Okay, those are the opposing forces. The Helvetii outnumber the Agii by quite a good margin. And the rules say that the attacker attacks first. So we'll look up the table, roll the die, and see what the Helvetii inflict on the Agii. Okay, the Helvetii got a very good combat results. They were on the 56 table and they rolled a 6, which inflicts 10 combat losses on the Adui. So the Adui will be able to fire back on the 12 table. See what they do. They rolled a 2, and that's 0, although there's a C beside it. I'll have to see what that means. Okay, in the simple version of the game, our basic version, which is what we're playing, the Helvetii will have to roll on the discipline table. They are a barbarian, and then it says you cross-hatch that with who they are. That's interesting. Well, let's roll the die first and see what we get. We get a 6. 6 cross-hatched with P means unit passes discipline check, no effect. So the Helvetii are okay. They soundly defeat the Adui at that battle hex. Okay, and according to the basic game combat, you just return the units to the hex, so there's no retreats or anything like that. In fact, combat is actually voluntary. So we'll return the Helvetii and the Adui back to that space, and it will be the Roman turn. Okay, we're into June of 57 BC, and the Romans will be rolling on the SPQR table to see what kind of units they get. Roll a 5. It says here, new recruits receive 1 R-class legion in the Italia off-map region, which we will do. Okay, well, we'll have Caesar be very bold. I want to see what's going on here. So Caesar will move up the river here to attack by Bracte and maybe get at these Helvetii. Now they also have the Adui with them, so they'll be moving them because I don't think Caesar can possibly get there in a single turn. But let's see what Caesar can do. Now he's got an engineer and an Impeditus unit with him, which means I think he can do some enhanced movement. Now the result of that battle was that the Helvetii did win the battle here against the Adui. But I was studying the combat results table, and because the Adui got a discipline check on the Helvetii could easily have failed their discipline check, which can kind of give illogical results. They inflicted 10 on the Adui, but because they rolled a 6, they were okay. But had they rolled a 1 or a 2, or a 3 or 4, they virtually would have been destroyed, even though they technically won the battle. So I'm wondering, the basic combat results table is a little too basic, and one might have to go to the advanced combat results table to make this game any sense. But we'll continue on a little while and see how it goes. Okay, that puts us back at the SPQR table, and we'll see what the Romans get. They roll a 9, which is auxiliaries. Choose 1 unit from the following list. So they will choose a unit, and that goes back in the Italia box. I think this time they'll choose maybe one of these 4R6 cavalry units. So we'll place that in the Italia box for the Roman. The Roman player will now be able to move. Let's see what Caesar can do. Okay, I'm about to do the Roman move with Caesar, and he's going to follow along the road here. And I think I've reached a conclusion about this game, so I'm not sure where I'm going to go with this video. Let's see what Caesar's move is here using the road. He rolls a 3, and he's using the road table, which is M1A. That's the enhanced march of 1 extra square. Now, the reason I've reached a conclusion about this game is the basic game. I think the basic game, when you get right down to it, is too basic. For one thing, I can't find any use of the Impeditus or the engineer units in the basic game. And since that affects all Roman movement, there's really no point in having them in the basic game. So, because he's got an enhanced march, Caesar would be able to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, he'd have to go off. So he'd only be able to go up to here with this army. And I don't know. The basic combat is so basic, or all or nothing, that I don't think we're going to be getting very historical results. So I may do a wrap-up here, because even playing this far has led me to some conclusions. And those conclusions are that I think with this series, you pretty well have to play with the advanced rules. Without them, there's just too much potential silliness, we might say. Like, for example, in that battle where the Helvetii defeated the Agui, and they could have lost their whole army anyway by a failed discipline check. So I think I'll have to reevaluate this and end the video and with some conclusions. Okay, well, conclusions on Caesar and Gallia. Well, this one of the four seems to be the most basic of them all. It's a straight conquest scenario. As I mentioned, where you stay only on the Gaul map. And I think trying just the basic game has kind of been a failure. I really don't see any point in playing the basic game. Now, the trouble with learning the advanced game is, as I mentioned before, are these atrocious rules layout. You have to learn some stuff the basic game and then read the advanced game, but forget stuff you read in the basic game. So the rules format, as I mentioned, is a mess. I've tried highlighting some stuff here. Maybe that's the way to do it. Highlight stuff that you have to read, and don't highlight the stuff that you don't have to read. I don't know. So the verdict is out on this game. I don't know. I still like the series, but my conclusion is that you pretty well have to play the advanced game. I think the basic game doesn't give you enough. I think really what they should have done was just abolish this basic game stuff and just done one set of rules and done one game. So I may look at Trajan, which is the first title in the series, and maybe that's the best one before they mucked around and tried to combine these four games into one. So that's all I'll say about Caesar and Gallia. I do like Joe Miranda's designs. I think he's a very innovative designer. It's just I keep coming back to the magazine format, which seems to just defeat me every time. And I've since stopped buying the magazine games. They're always unfinished products as far as I'm concerned. So that's it for Caesar in Gallia.